Okay, here we are, collaborative genius fusion. I'm really excited about this. I got to tell you how this came about. I've been doing this for years, in a variety of ways. But my brother passed over, I think 3 weeks ago, and he died on stage with a guitar in his hand. And when that happened, and I heard he had gone, and I tuned in, and I saw him going straight over to the what I call the legends in the sky. You know, the Freddie Mercury's and Prince and Bowie and those guys. And then he's been pestering me ever since as a message from those great legendary performers. Soleira, you have to do something about collaborative genius fusion because that's what the world needs. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. so this is my effort at doing something about that. So there you go, Tony. But promise fulfilled. So, but I also think that, hey, Allie, hi, Simon, welcome. So I also think that what's really key here, if you look at the progression of what I call collaborative genius fusion over the recent years, if you go into a normal team meeting in a, let's say anything, a charity, a business, anything at all, sports, what you get is a bunch of people sitting there all like wondering what they're going to do. And even at best, you'll get a leader who shares a vision, they get a little excited, and then they ask for ideas, and they'll all input ideas, and some people will say, well, that's good or not, and maybe they green light, and maybe one or two of those ideas will get used, and the rest just falls to the side. That's not collaborative genius fusion. That's something else. Well, the level of collaborative genius fusion that we've used a lot in our network in recent times has been, well, let's say someone's got a project or a vision and they need ideas and energy and concept. So we would come on a call like this, let's say, and we'd use that person and their vision as a focal point. And then everybody would tune in and they would share all their ideas and visions. And that person would then take that kind of potpourri of genius and use whatever's appropriate for them. So that's a kind of next level of collaborative genius fusion. But then if you take it even further, you come into what we do in our network with consciousness innovation. And with consciousness innovation, we come onto a call like this from all over the world. And I might facilitate it, but I'm not leading it. What happens is we're all equal co-creative genius maestros. And we say, go, what wants to move? And you will call the power of that which wants to move through us. And each person's unique genius and mastery will contribute to that creation in that moment. And every bit is used. There's nothing that's discarded or thrown away because it's a total collaborative genius fused creation. You can see that, right? A lot of you have done those calls and that you can see that's what we're doing. And you come into it not sitting back and waiting, but you come into it as an equal co-creative genius and master. And that's one of the fundamentals of collaborative genius fusion. It's that no one should be sitting feeling like on the sidelines. They should be feeling like, yeah, I'm going to give my genius and mastery and it's going to be included because that's the excitement of it all. And I think one of the skills of being someone who can facilitate this is being first sourcing the space. So you've got to be able to source the space for that to happen. Second, calling everyone into that greatness. And I would say third, you've got to be able to weave all the genius together in some way. So it is weaving together, like what we do in a consciousness innovation call. Each person will say, I got this, I got this, I got this. And one of the skills that I like using is then I can say, well, here's what that big picture looks like. When you put all those together, this is what you get. When you bring that all together, because then they can see how every piece contributed to the whole of something becoming. So to me, that's really exciting, and that's collaborative genius fusion. You will see examples of that in the world. Like, have you ever seen a performance by a band or a whole, whole concert of musicians? And it might include singers and dancers and musicians playing instruments. And it goes into that space of extraordinary. You know those moments, right? It slips into extraordinary. And in that moment, they're not individuals playing a musical instrument and dancing to a song. They become one spectacular thing. And each genius captivates and enchants the whole. So that's another example of that. And yesterday, Ushma pointed me to the making of The Dark Crystal that's just come onto Netflix. And I was watching them, and they were things like Lord of the Rings and Dark Crystals, and they've used that kind of creative process where every single genius is creating inside the project, and they let them have free rein to bring their genius into it so that more gets created, so something spectacular is created out of it. And the only last story I will tell you before we go and do some work on it is years ago, I hosted a conference in Wales. And there was this lady at the conference, and she said she was on the European dragon boat racing team, and they were about to race in the European Olympics. And she said, it would be great if you could all help us, achieve our best in that race. And so the whole conference, there's about 100 of us, we just lined up with her. And then on the day of the race, we all made a point to put it in our diaries, line up with them again. And we were like seeing them all doing great things. And she said afterwards, they won the Olympic dragon boat racing. And she said afterwards, oh my God, Soleira, I don't know what happened. She said, we became one row. And she said, we raced ahead of everybody else on the river. We were so far ahead of everybody, and it took us 3 days to come down off the high. And that's collaborative genius fusion. Something, you hit something that's, you're fused together in a way that's like your one voice, your one song, your one creation, your one movement. But each one is contributing fully to that amazing creation. And it's how you get that to happen is what I want to play with on this call. So, hey, Lori. Hey, Sandra. So, I thought, Dorothy, I thought I might ask you, because you probably have instances where you use this, don't you?
Yes, it's my favorite tool and skill. And there is resistance to it. So I'm working with a nonprofit right now, and the individual desires to be heard are so strong that it keeps this from occurring. Like, there's so much pull because of the individual desire to be heard. And my favorite way of playing with that is to say right at the beginning, I'm smiling at your story about the like dancers and musicians, that if your chair was empty, there would be a big hole, that everything you're bringing is required for us to move together, so that it doesn't take hours and hours of listening to everybody so everybody gets heard before you can ever do anything, which makes me nuts.
Yeah.
So my way is to start off by saying what you bring is so valuable that there would be a big hole in the effort if you weren't there. Yeah. So, and that seems to get everybody to put their own personal stuff about being seen to the side for the bigger picture.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I find too, if I or whoever's up for it lines up a big enough vision, I'll use the word vision. I'm using that loosely because it doesn't have to be like a vision, but if there's a compelling calling and the people that are participating are called into that, if they're resonant with it. If they're non-resonant with it, I don't think there's much you can do. I think they might just as well go if they're not interested. But if they're resonant with it and the compelling calling is there, they will, there's almost a surrender. And it's funny because I say surrender, but most people would hear surrender as a, well, I let go and sit back. But this is the opposite of that. It's a surrender into the creation, that the creation is the important piece, not the individual contribution. Although, as you said, Dorothy, the individual contribution is what makes it spectacular. All of those brought together, that's what makes it spectacular. So, yeah. So, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Dorothy.
There's also in the space, as your source in the space, there is it's like tactile, an inherent desire that's common in the space, and tapping into that gives me the language and the vision that is slightly bigger than any one of the individuals would be aware of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's brilliantly put. Yeah, I love it. Anybody else got examples of anything like that you want to share, or anything you want to ask just quick before we move to the next piece? Nope. Okay. So first of all, before I go further, let's all now, because you can see I was talking a lot. Now we're occurring like amazing people all sitting together from all around the world. So let's all line up. That's the first thing you do, is you get alignment. So just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and feel your connection to all of us on this call. And to the excitement and the possibility of what collaborative genius fusion could be in the world. And then you can feel us as a collective, as equal genius co-creative maestros, co-sourcing the breakthrough for the world today. Okay, you can feel the difference, right? It's palpable when we stop to do that and align. So alignment is the first piece. If you're working with a group of people, that's the first piece. You've got to get them to align. And if it's like you're going into a business and you don't want to use any kind of strange language, you can just say, let's line up, let's all just line up for great outcomes from this meeting. You can say it as simply as that. They will do what it takes to align when you say that. But you can also walk them through it. You could, like we just did kind of thing, and say a few words and walk them through it. And something happens. There's a cohesiveness that happens when you do that. Now, also, alignment's the first piece. The second piece is the compelling calling, or that which wants to happen. Something bigger, something greater is calling us. So on this call, something greater is calling us, right? That's why we're all here. Okay, so we might all have something different calling us that's greater. It may be related to this, it may not. But if you just now connect to the something greater that is calling you, okay, so just do that. You could think of it, you could call it, you could stream it through, you could burst it into the space, into the world, you can gift it. And we become a force for something greater than just a Zoom call on a topic. I don't know if all of you could feel that, but it just went, whoa, like my fingers are tingling, the energy's bubbling and, bursting and wanting to move. Could you all feel that? That was really cool. So now we're not only aligned as equal co-creators and a collective, but we're now also moving the energy of something greater. We're engaged in a greater calling. And again, you see, you didn't all have to line up to mine, because if I tried to get you all to line up to mine, it might work, it might not, because that might not be yours. But when I let you line up to yours and call yours, then it fuses and it goes into one grand, great calling. You could see that, right? When we did it, you could feel it happening, which was really exciting. Ooh, I love it. Okay, the next one is resonance. So I'm kind of just talking about resonance when I said I didn't ask you to line up with my greater calling. So, if I said, so how do you discover resonance? Okay, so if I said, who's up for getting the United Nations to all work together on climate change? You can feel if you're resonant with that, right? Or if I said, who's up for getting governments to operate in a better leadership? Some might have a resonance, so you can feel, no, not me. Yeah, that's me. You'll feel the difference. It's like a calling forth. You could say, who's up for doing something about climate change yourself? Or who's up for creating the next new exciting thing in consciousness? Could singing, like you lean forward, something rises up in you, you get excited, or you go, not for me. And that's how you determine resonance. And then you should always honor that resonance. You should never try and override that resonance. Because I've seen people do that. They say, well, it sounds like a good thing to do, so I'm here, so I might as well sit in it. Oh, this is really boring. This doesn't interest me. Now they're sitting in a space and pulling the space away because they're non-resonant. It's not a bad thing. They should just get up and go. I remember years ago, we used to go to some of the International Coach Federation conferences, and I'd always sit at the back to listen to speakers because I knew I wasn't going to like what was being said. So I sat at the back so I could quickly leave. And occasionally I would really love it and stay, but mostly I had to stay at the back because I knew I would then become a distraction. I was non-resonant to what was being talked about. And so you should always follow your resonance. Don't stay in something if you're not really called to it, if you're not really interested in it. And I think, what Dorothy was talking about, working with an organization where they forced everybody into a room like they didn't have a choice. That's a really interesting challenge. How do you get them to do that? The answer might be get them working on multiple projects, find where the resonance is, and get them working. If they're not resonant, then where are they? What are they excited about? How do they? I don't know whether that would work or not, but it's an idea of how to do it. So, okay, so we got alignment, greater calling, resonance, right? Okay, the next one is unleash genius. I like this one. Okay, so you might be sitting there thinking, well, what do I have to contribute to any of that, right? But every person does have in them the most amazing, unique genius. And it'll be quirky in every one of us. It won't be like you'd expect to see in anybody else, nor should it be. It should be quirky and unique to you, your genius. And no one should ever criticize your genius because it's your genius. And that's part of the key of doing this kind of work. You have to accept every contribution and make it awesome. Validate it, honor it, respect it, include it. That's one of the keys that you have to do. So unleash genius. The most people's genius is sitting inside in I call it putting it in the cellar and closing the door. That's what most people do with their genius, because in their life they've been told, oh no, you're not a very good writer, or oh no, you didn't paint that very well, or yeah, you know, whatever. And we all went, okay, well, I'll just keep it quietly inside then. So that's not unleashed genius. Unleashed genius is like when you stand on the mountaintop or you're on the beach and you're like, here it comes, world. This is me. I'm giving you all I got. And I'm letting it fly unfettered from me. And whatever ideas come, whatever creations come, because I'm unleashed. Okay, so I want us now to unleash our genius into this space that we're creating. You got it? Okay, so imagine you are somewhere spectacular, someplace you love, beach, mountains, sailing in the sky, whatever you think it is. And that love of whatever it is that your genius is based on, it just bursts from you. And it just pours into the world, unfettered, free, flying, soaring, gifting itself everywhere, touching everything. And then imagine that all that unfettered, unleashed genius from all of us is circling the globe all together and swarming together and creating something spectacular that we have no idea what it is altogether from each of us. Okay. Wow, that was amazing. Did you all get the sense of that? That all of a sudden these individual big soaring geniuses just went and created something. Get the sense of that? I could see it and feel it almost, although I don't know what it is yet, but it was huge, really huge as a gift from all of us to the world. Just spectacular. Okay, one last piece and then we'll play on some ideas and things. So the next piece is limitless possibilities. Because what happens as you start to talk about things, as you start to articulate your genius, because we're doing it all unspoken at the moment, as you start to talk about it, known consciousness, known possibilities, limited thinking will go shoop and capture it, almost always. It's quite normal for people to do that. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to swim in the ocean of limitless possibilities, of the never before known, of the brand new concepts, of innovating beyond your wildest dreams. And when you come into that space of innovation, but wild, limitless innovation with possibilities you just haven't even considered yet, now you've expanded the space and allowed new things to pop through, not just what we all know already, but brand new things to pop through. Okay, so we'll just be in that. So we'll just put that into place. Limitless possibilities, innovation space for the new. Now, while you're there and we've done all that together, think of something for yourself at the moment that you would love to expand, to exhilarate, to grow, to come up with new ideas for yourself. It could be a simple project, it could be a new business idea, whatever, book that you're writing. Okay, now put that in the space we've just created. And let it fly and soar in the space we've just created. Let the force and the genius and the mastery and all of that just zhuzh it up. And let it spark ideas in you. And see if any new ideas come. Okay. All right. Now, anybody want to share anything or ask anything or say any of the new ideas you might have gotten while we were doing that? Yeah, Dorothy, go for it.
Yeah, within every group, this genius that gets collaborative has all the answers. And societally, every group is looking outside itself for permission or answers or whatever it would take to liberate the ideas. So for me, it was to disconnect those two, providing the freedom for every group with genius ideas to just move on them and not seek the permission or the support from outside the group.
Fantastic. Did you do that work in consciousness? Is that what you did?
Actually, I was tapping into this group for it. There was the that little bit of edgy independence in this group that fed that desire in me.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, you do get that. It definitely. Edgy independence is a great word for it. I love that. I'm going to take that one on for myself. I love it. Okay, anybody else want to share anything that you got? Yeah, Mary, go for it.
I think it was going back when we were all joining together of what we were doing before this last piece. But I saw us all as like the Northern Lights or Southern Lights, whatever you call them. But those pictures you see from space where it's encompassing the whole globe in that glorious green light and everything's sparking. So the individuals are sparking like those sparks you see in that, but they're also all flowing together and affecting the whole world, because that's what happens physically, is that it's sun's magnetic energy, isn't it? It causes it. I think it's cosmic rays basically, but that energy affects the earth and everybody living here, And when we can be that energy and influence it, then we can have effect on everything and bring it up in energy in some way, which I don't understand, but that's how it felt to me.
Yeah. And by the way, Mary, I want to acknowledge you for your new idea today about taking people on your trip to New Zealand with you. That was fabulous. I saw Britt was just on and she had to drop off. She's in Argentina at the moment. She's always traveling and she's always trying to figure out a way that she can take people with her in some way. And you did that. And I think you were walking on the cliffs when it came to you, right?
Well, partly, yes, and partly I was in conversation with somebody I'm her coaching with, and Brit said, "Can I borrow your idea?" And I said, "Of course you can." I know she's been talking about that for some time anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's not my idea. That idea was plucked out of the cosmos somewhere from the person I was speaking to, passed it on to me, and I'm passing it on to whoever else wants to share it. That's the point of collaborative genius, isn't it? But we each do it in our individual way, which I'm doing, and which other people do. So I think that is actually a good example of the magic of it, isn't it? That we do our individual way of doing it, that we can
Absolutely.
bring.
I thought it was quite genius the way you came up with it, that you're going to write their name on a card and carry it with you on your travels and then bring it back and then draw the 4 cards on the compass for them. I thought that was quite genius, Mary, to take them to New Zealand with you.
Yeah, well, people have been saying there's lots of other parts. I'm asking people to trust me at the moment that what they'll get at the end will be an amazing, wonderful creation that we've done together, made together. I don't actually know what that is yet, so that's quite a big ask for some people, but people are getting it already and signing up already, which is wonderful. So.
And that's the resonance right there. You know, you get the right people. You don't want the wrong people. You want the right people who are really resonant with that whole concept, who just go with you. And you can see that what Mary's also talking about when she's going to New Zealand, it was a trip to go visit your family. But now you'll be walking in a greater path because you will be carrying a collective with you who are doing a piece of work wherever you go and who are getting benefits themselves, but they become a collective co-creating the journey with you and experiencing it with you, which is amazing. I love that. That's a good example of collaborative genius fusion.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Anybody else want to share anything? Okay, so I want to do a couple of examples. So Simon, do you still want us to work on your project as one of the possibilities?
I'm not sure. I've
just
been I've just been away from it a week.
Then let me ask this question. So is there someone who has something, a project, a business idea, whatever, that they'd like us to do collaborative genius on it for you? That's the kind of level I was talking about, where we all come up with ideas for you. So is there anybody who's got one of that? If it's Simon, great. If you feel it, Simon, say so. If it's somebody else, say so. Anybody got one of those? No? Doriana, is that you? Yeah?
It's me.
Yay!
So what I got is that in the old paradigm, we're wearing different hats. You know, we're the mother, or the wife, or the teacher, blah, blah, blah. And the new paradigm is to actually be a part of and interact with everything around us. You know, the breatharian, the Solarian, the Catarian, and all these different things, where it's actually we're understanding the exchange of energy and the sensing of things within our own bodies, making our own life much richer.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that to be expanded upon.
Okay. Do you want us to, because is it okay if I say what you do?
Sure.
Yeah. So Doriana runs a website called youthingyou.com, with a U, not a Y-O-U. And she's working on youthing the world. and all of us. And so I'm not quite sure I got exactly what you would like us to input Genius on in that capacity, but can we look at it as the youthing movement for you? Is that, would that work, or are you? Okay,
Sure,
great.
that would be great.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. So, because she's a focal point for youthing, whatever you want to call that, immortality, the fountain of youth, becoming younger, living longer, full lives, however you relate to that. So let me just check. How many people are resonant with that as a concept? Can you just stick up your hands? Yeah, that's pretty close to everybody. Okay, so if you're not resonant with it and you want to do something else, do something else. Okay, so you can pick a different project and work on that. So, okay, for all those who are resonant, so Doriana is in Arizona and she's the youthing movement. Okay, so we're going to focus on her and we're going to get ideas for how she can move that movement in the world. Is that about accurately said, Doriana? Does that work for you?
Very
Okay.
good.
Okay, so here we go. Doriana's the focus, and we're going to bring our space, our collaborative genius fusion space, put her as the central focus, and see what ideas we get. Okay, here we go. And then as you get that, then see her soaring, flying with that. And if it's not her specifically with that, see someone in the world soaring and flying with that. So the whole youthing movement is moved. There, that even freed it up, moved it more. Okay, I had two great ideas just come, could sing right in, Doriana. One was to use a collaborative network of consciousness creators to create that movement in consciousness in the world. The second was what you were talking about. There's all these people with different ways. I could see an event getting created. It could be an actual event where people come to like a day or two or three or something, or it could be an online conference with different speakers on different topics, to call people into the youthing movement, to make it something that everybody becomes a part of, and there's multiple views and perspectives and excitement, and then little mini workshops off here, and see what I mean? I could see it like a collaborative genius fusion event where that was moving, and you'd become known as a voice for the youthing movement. So who else? What ideas did you have that you want to share with her?
I got this catch the wave that it's contagious. The youthing movement is contagious, and we each find our road into it. So I don't know, it could be mind, body, spirit, you find your way in, or weightlifting, yoga, supplements, whatever it is, you find your path in, but it's contagious, and there's a wave that would bring all those tangents together.
Yeah, I had the same thing about it being contagious, but for me it was the new source body, I call it. It's like, it's that thing that the body is never limited to our ideas of age. It is responsive to your energy and can be any shape or size, or there's no reason not to feel good and healthy and well, basically. But it literally, it went around like a wave, and it was contagious. And also I got something about a club. It's like a club of people all having the conversation at this level rather than the traditional conversation about everything that's going to go wrong with your body as you get older. That if it was actually a space where people were pinging exciting ideas or exciting new breakthroughs in the body and what people are doing. So yeah.
Nice, yeah. Anybody else want to? Yeah, Julie?
Well, I heard the song Immortality, you know, the song from the Bee Gees. So it kept singing in my head. And so I connected with your brother and the legends. And so Spirit is tuning in with us and spreading this consciousness as a vibration, as a song in our cells. And so it's a great happening. Fun, no?
Fantastic. Okay, let's do one more. Penny?
Yeah, I felt the same way about the contagion, because I think, what do I think of as youthing is people who are open to ideas and full of energy, and you're just feeling great. And I think once this thing starts and people see people that are like that they're going to want some of it. And success will breed success.
Yeah. You can see it's a conversation. It's an exciting conversation. It's a movement. It's like once you get it into a movement and it becomes contagious, it becomes exciting like that. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Doriana. That was perfect for that example. Yeah, and she will use whatever of those work for her, but it's not like any other ideas are lost. They are put into consciousness and someone will do them somewhere. That's the way it works. I've seen that over and over with consciousness. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, so now we're going to do it at the other level I talked about, where we become one force and we move something. Okay. So I want to find out what we're all resonant for, or maybe we'll just do it. Let's just do it. We'll just do a piece of consciousness innovation work, shall we? So we won't specify it, because if we specify it, then you have to determine resonance. Okay, so whatever it is that you have a grand desire to see in the world today, to see in the universe today, let that desire just soar and rise in you, and call it into movement, into dance, into play, into song, into creation. And see us all as one force, bringing those swirling, dancing forces and callings all merging and weaving and dancing. Okay. Oh, you can just feel that. And you can feel that, you know, every time we do that, I get excited and then I feel this sense of satisfaction when we're done. Like, oh, there, you know, like that was really beautiful. When we started and I saw all these different genius mastering fusion things happening, what I thought initially focused on, I thought, was the immortality piece we were talking about. And when I started the call, I talked about my brother and the legends in the sky, and they were part of it too. But it was like singing a new song of us, a new version of us. And then my own, something that called me today came into it, and then I also switched it into something else as well. I posted this article in the Future Fantastica group where a guy who is a wilderness survivalist, and he has studied the collapse of civilizations, talked about what you'd need to do in an apocalypse. And he said, most people would think you need to learn how to build a fire and build a shelter, but he said, no, what you need to do is learn how to be kind and generous and work together. And I thought, yes, that's what we need. We need a world that can work together, which is exactly what we're doing here, collaborative genius fusion. And then we took all that energy and we reinvented the world of working together in a new way. So that's what I got while we were doing it. Spectacular. So who else want to share what you got when we did that?
Yeah, I found it interesting because it's like I could feel all the individual things coming and moving and swirling and dancing, but it became this really strong, unified field. And it was like just this boom power that supported each and every one of the dances that were going on in it in such a more dramatic and dynamic way. That was brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, isn't that lovely the way that's collaborative genius fusion? It becomes one dance. Yeah. So all the various things, no matter what we chose to make it about, all fuse together. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Lori. Who else? Okay, Penny, go for it.
Well, I want to be the quantum color coach, but the end bit, the bit that matters, has been eluding me. However, as a result of this, I think I see how to take it from the skills and knowledge that I have to that other level. So I'm not going to say too much at the moment because I think I still need to process it, but the genius of this group has revealed to me the thought process that I need to follow now. So, wow, thank you.
Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? Yeah, Lynn, go for it. Oh, I could tell you were doing big stuff. I could see it moving.
Yeah. So on the night before the equinox, I was connecting to this woman who was doing this kind of transmission, which was just connecting to, I don't know if you know Anastasia in Russia, but she was connecting to her energy. She's this mystic. I can send the link afterwards. Who is totally living in nature, and everything is supported by nature. She doesn't see people, but there's been stories told by one person who's been in contact with her. Yeah, there's lots of books that are out there. You can get them on this Anastasia. But anyhow, the point was that this other woman whom I was listening to was connecting to Anastasia's energy, which was basically calling in that renewal, that using energy. So that was what I was connecting to, and it was like going into that spiral and just letting that spiral go, and then it was kind of connecting all of us together, and I was just bringing that youth thing. And I think by all of us connecting into that life source energy, it's like that's the new place we're going as humankind, because from that place we will be able to do whatever is needed, because we're in that new vibration. That was what I was kind of calling it in for all of us.
Beautiful. I love it. Fantastic. Anybody else? One more? Yeah, Mary, go for it.
Anybody else? Well, I just thinking about joy and about peace. So I just got a big dance of peaceful joy and joyful peace. And just that, it sounds very simplistic, but the feeling wasn't. The feeling was really powerful. Like Laurie said, actually, really powerful. The fact that if everybody started with that in their hearts, how things would change. And
Yeah.
we can do that. We can do that by being that in our own lives and in this bigger collaboration that we're in, and all the other areas that we're in where we connect with anybody. If we can do that in our way, that spreads the ripples and the influences out around, like the light I saw earlier.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Oh, that was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. And I think what we've created is a way for the world to be together, to work together, to share genius, to collaborate, to be able to fuse things. Because, you know, some of the essentials inside of that, and several people mentioned it here, like you create something in consciousness, or you put something in, or you get something from it, but you don't own it. You know, like, I think that's an essential piece of it. A lot of, when you go back to the companies doing team stuff, people are either afraid to share their ideas, or they're trying to hang on to their ideas. Dorothy was talking about that, as they own it. They don't want somebody else to get the credit for it. And I think that just has to go. That's one of the pieces where when you collaborate, it has to be a shared equal contribution, and nobody owns it, is one of the things that I think is a huge part of it. And as consciousness creators, we're very, very good at that. So we're used to creating in advance and so putting into consciousness. Then you see somebody else 2 years later running with it. You're like, hooray! You know, thank God somebody picked that up and did something with it. So it's a very different concept. So there you go. So collaborative genius fusion, I'll just recap fast. So alignment, resonance, a deeper, greater calling, unleashed genius, wild possibilities, and you as a facilitator, if you're going to facilitate with people, you have to be able to source the space for that. And sourcing the space for that is an energetic and consciousness skill. You have to see each and every person that's sitting there or on that call, in that room, whatever, as the most spectacular being that ever walked the face of the universe. I mean, you really have to exaggerate it in yourself, but really totally believe it. Because if you come in any other way, it won't get unleashed. And that's not really the way the world normally works, you know? So we have to kind of make sure we're there, making sure each person is seen and recognized and respected and called forth and given space. But you source the space for that whole thing. I don't want to call it a process. That sounds too linear. It's much more than, it's magic. You're sourcing a space for this incredible magic to happen with a group of people co-creating together. And it's just such an exciting way to work, to live, to create from. I just love it. I could hardly work any other way now. So I think that's it for me. I've said everything I want to say. We've done all the do. Is there anything from anybody else that you want to say anything before we wrap up?
Can I add one more element to what you were just saying?
Yes.
Which was the way you work is that you're not trying to control it. It's the absolute freedom. Because quite often when you're leading a project, you have a vision and you want everybody to contribute in a specific way. And the thing about this is the absolute freedom and trust of each genius person in it. And you let go of control and you trust the bigger space and the thing that you've set up to deliver. And so you're not micromanaging or trying to get it to go a certain way, and you're open to the outcome. You haven't shut off with your vision. You're open to what happens when all these geniuses come together and genii come together and do their thing.
Beautifully put. I love it. Yes to all of that. Fantastic. Anybody else? Anything before we go? Oh, thank you so much. My brother is happy. That's been wonderful working with you all, and go forth and do some collaborative genius fusion in the world. I love it. Okay, everybody. Thanks a lot. It's been great. Bye.